A few weeks ago, John and Maggie Williams invited me out to dinner along with Father Mike from St. Joe's. Our server attends Mass here at Christ the Redeemer, and he also went to St. Joe's grade school, so he knew both Father Mike and I. And when he was refilling our wine glasses, he remarked, "I never thought I would be serving the two of you bread and wine." We continue our reflection, which began with the multiplication of the loaves and fish in the wilderness. And today we return to the primary image. This bread is food for us, meant to be shared and eaten. We are invited to taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Woman, wisdom, Sophia in Greek, has prepared her banquet. Her table is set. Come, eat of my bread, and drink of the wine I have mixed. Wisdom is personified as a woman. It's in this likeness to a woman that we may find one way to understand Jesus' words. Just as a mother gives her very flesh and blood to nurture a new life carried within her, and then continues to feed the child from her own body after it is born, so Jesus nourishes with his very self all who are birthed to new life through him. Similar to the union of mother and child while the infant dwells in the womb, Jesus promises, "Those who eat my flesh and drink my blood abide in me and I in them." At the Last Supper, Jesus even likens his coming passion to the pangs of a woman in labor. The death of his earthly body is the birth to new life for all. The fourth evangelist makes this very explicit. After Jesus dies on the cross, John tells us that they pierced Jesus' side, and water and blood immediately flowed out. This, of course, is a birthing image. God took a rib from Adam's side, and from the rib fashioned woman. Jesus is the new Adam, giving birth from his side. So on the cross, Jesus gives life to the whole world, restoring creation to its original blessing. After all, our trouble began with a bad meal, eating the forbidden fruit, seizing at godliness on our own terms. But now our salvation comes through this new meal, God offering us his life as a free gift. In the Gospel of Luke, this is foreshadowed when Mary laid the Christ child in the manger. The manger, of course, is a feeding trough. Jesus came to be food for a hungry world, whereas Caesar Augustus existed to be fed. Jesus existed to be fed upon. Jesus gives his flesh and blood, an expression that connotes the whole person. We eat the bread so that not only the food, but the very act of eating has meaning. You take this kingdom into you. You chew it. You make it a part of yourself. You incorporate it, digest it. You're nourished by it. You become a different kind of being. Literally, we become what we eat. Bread is perhaps our primary symbol for food, health, nourishment, and community. Bread is a symbol for life and coming together. But there's another story to bread. Kernels of wheat had to be crushed in their individuality to become something communal, flour, which then had to endure fire to be baked into the substance that gives off the smell of life. So bread speaks of both joy and pain. Wine, too, speaks in this double way. On the one hand, it's a festive drink, perhaps our foremost symbol for celebration. But wine has nothing to do with basic nourishment. Wine speaks of friendship, community, celebration, joy, recreation, victory. But like bread, Wine has another side. Individual grapes are crushed, and their very blood becomes the substance out of which ferments this warm, festive drink. Bread. Individual grains are ground into flour and baked into bread. Clusters of grapes are crushed, and the juice is fermented into wine. Bread and wine, body and blood, the sacramental sign of the Eucharist. Jesus gives us his whole self, flesh and blood. So the Eucharist we call the real presence of Christ. In the Eucharist, then, we find Jesus of Nazareth. And in Jesus, we find God made flesh. But consider the Eucharist. It is something that is eaten so that people have life. It's something that we drink so that people are refreshed. What a profound symbolic act, revealing the great Christian insight. If you seek to know who God is, look at Jesus of Nazareth. If you seek to know who Jesus is, he is the one who is eaten so that we may be nourished. The Eucharist, then, is the great acting out of who Jesus and God is, the one who gives himself away fully and without reserve. So if you wish to find God, give yourself away. When we do Eucharist, we enact what we mean by the very word God.